Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's our West Ham season review for the 2021-22 season. An epic season where West Ham finished 7th and a fantastic run in the Cups, including the Europa League. So we'll talk about some memorable moments throughout the season, and at the end we'll pick our Goal of the Season awards, Moment of the Season, etc. at the end. So I'm joined by JP once again. He's got his own West Ham channel, JPWHU TV. Thanks for joining again, JP. Your links in the description below, and links there for everyone to have a look at. So how you doing, mate? Obviously, fantastic season, which we'll touch on, but still can't believe it happened, mate.
Absolutely, it's just once again, it's nice to come on again and talk about this. I mean, I think I've probably made more content than you this channel because I reckon we've been on literally did all the Champions League games, including the final as well, for that matter, and stuff. It's been good, but no, yeah, honestly, the last 12 months have been a blur. It's one of the quickest seasons I've ever known. And it's one again. It's the second season in a row for the history books.
No, 100%. Yeah, it's the first time in our history we finished in the top seven finishes in the top flight in consecutive seasons. So yeah, if you're new around here, please subscribe to Gatesy Football, and yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We've got another guest today. He's making his debut on the channel. It's from a very good channel called Forward from Mine. It's Gatesy. Gatesy, thanks for joining, mate. How are you getting on?
I'm doing all right, mate. I'm doing well, and I hope you two guys are in fine fettle as well, and we're going to have a good laugh.
Yeah, well, plenty of good moments to talk about, mate. So yeah, let's as I say, I recommend you subscribe to Gatesy's channel and JP's as well. Links in the description below for both of those channels. Highly recommend. So right, let's before we get into things, obviously we'll talk about what happened each month, so August, September, etc. But before we get into the first games in August, I mean, pre-season wise, I mean, obviously we finished 6th the previous season, the 20 and 21 season. Unfortunately weren't that many, well, if any of the games because of COVID, obviously, but it was obviously a fantastic season. We finished 6th. But before the season started, I mean, what were your thoughts on where we were going to finish and how you saw the season panned out with obviously the crowds back at London Stadium, etc. I mean, Gatesy, what were your thoughts on how you think West Ham were going to get on before the season started?
I think I was a little bit apprehensive, if I'm being brutally honest, because I think I looked at, obviously we'd finished 6th the previous season, which was an absolutely magnificent achievement, and hats off to David Moyes, the coaches, the players, and all the rest of it for that. But then obviously going into that season, and obviously the transfer window, we possibly needed to do, in my opinion, I think we needed to do more business than what actually took place. And going into that season with European football, I'm sitting there and thinking, how's this going to pan out? And obviously now we sit here with the benefit of hindsight, and we can look back at the season, 7th place finish, semi-final of the European competition that we was involved in, the Europa League, and it was magnificent. But at that point, I was quite concerned that we were possibly going to run out of steam at some point.
No, fair enough. Where did you think? What was your prediction for where West Ham were going to finish?
I didn't think. I mean, I heard some people saying that the real pessimists that were saying that we would be in for a relegation battle, and I didn't subscribe to that narrative at all. But I did kind of sort of think maybe it kind of depended upon how deep we were going to go in Europe. Sort of like I did sort of wonder whether if we sort of threw our eggs into the European basket, that we might take our eyes off the Premier League, and that might mean maybe we might finish maybe sort of down to about 12th, something like that. I mean, let's be honest, if we'd have finished 12th and won the Europa League, no one would have cared.
No,
everyone would have gone, that's great, because we'd have got European silverware in the cabinet and Champions League qualifications. 12th place in the Premier League, I think we'd have been quite happy with. So sitting here now, we finished 7th, we got the semi-final. Am I happy with that? Yeah, I am. I got to say. But like I say, it's one of those where I think if we'd have done a bit more business in either January or the previous summer, I think maybe we might have been able to get a little bit more, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Yeah, I think for me, I think obviously made a couple of good signings, which we'll touch on. Kozuma being one of them, I thought fantastic. But I think, as you say, mate, I think we needed some more. But I felt the European runs you know, if we did get far, would sort of harm our league position. You know, that's not just a West Ham thing. That's, you look at a lot of clubs in not only in the Premier League but around Europe, where traditionally, if you're in the Europa League, you will drop a place or two in your league. That's just the reality of, you know, the Europa League and UEFA Cup when it was changed to Thursday, Sunday. That's just how it is. So I thought we'd finish 9th, which still the top 10 still would have been a good season. I would have settled for, but obviously to get better than that, then I was well delighted, to be honest. What about you, JP? What were your thoughts before the season started?
Well, Gatesy is going to call me a pessimist because I was one of the people that when the fixture list came out, I did my video for it last year. I said at the time, if the squad doesn't change, and we have a very good run in Europa League, I can see us having a relegation scrap. I said it. I was one of the people. Don't get me wrong. I was absolutely buzzing that we were coming into a new season for the reasons you guys have just touched on, finishing 6th. You know, we wouldn't have to go through the qualifying rounds of Europa League like we had to do in the previous seasons. I still can't figure out how we got into Europa League under Allardyce with the least amount of bookings. That makes absolutely no sense. Let's just come back to the season just passed. But I genuinely was buzzing. Like, great, you can see all my mates again. We'll be able to go watch the football. It was fantastic. But with the but the problem is that with the PAI capital takeover stuff that was happening just before the season started.
Yeah, forgot about that. It was a while ago, mate, wasn't it?
I know. Tell me about it. Yeah, but it's almost literally 12 months, give or take a few weeks. But yeah, I was quite deflated. Thought, here we go. It was West Ham again. Usual West Ham stuff. Mudslinging in the press. Blah 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 blah. David Sullivan not shutting up about things. Kind of deflated me, but as I say, overall, absolutely buzzing for it, and really looking forward to see what we were going to do in Europe, because, you know, we hadn't had a decent campaign since Redknapp, really. So it was absolutely buzzing for it.
Totally agree, mate. Right, let's get into the season. So August, you know, perfect start from a West Ham point of view. You know, not perfect start in the actual match, but Newcastle away, we were behind, but we ended up winning 4-2. Fantastic result. Obviously, you know, it's a different Newcastle then. We were playing under the ownership of Mike Ashley in the managerial reign of Steve Bruce. It's obviously completely different now, but still a good result. And then first home game of the season was Monday Night Football, and West Ham absolutely hammered Leicester 4-1, and that was an incredible game. And me and JP were there. Were you there, Gatesy? I assume for that one?
I was, yes. The atmosphere was absolutely superb. I mean, anyone that turns around and says that London Stadium is soulless, well, it can be, but on that night it wasn't. No, and there were subsequent nights in this season that we're about to talk about where that sort of atmosphere was recreated. So 4-1 win against Leicester, and just looking here, in the wake of that game, we actually were first in the Premier League. It would have been quite nice if they could have stopped it after 2 games, but, you know, hand us the trophy, it's fine, we'll take it. But no, we were on the game against Newcastle. I was down in Cornwall watching that game, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we were 2-1 down, weren't we? And we came back and won it 4-2.
So,
and played really well. I mean,
2-1 down at half time as well.
Yeah. So
makes it even better.
I thought that was a great deal of character that they showed in that first game, and then to sort of follow it up with a 4-1 win against a team that, let's be honest, Leicester, I think people had sort of come used to them getting sort of like in top 6 placing and sort of like doing well. They were the FA Cup holders.
A good side as well. I mean, absolutely, if you pardon the pun, absolutely hammered them.
Yeah, smashed them to bits. They never got out of the blocks. We just sort of like were at them from the get-go. Like I say, the crowd were up for it. The players were clearly up for it.
Oh, man. Antonio's celebration with the cardboard cutout. Oh, man.
A little bit of dirty
legendary.
Can't be bad. So yeah, it was 2 games. That was a very good start. I got to say that second game, I come away thinking, I didn't for 1 minute think we were going to win the Premier League. You know, I know we were top after that game, but I come away sort of thinking, like I say, I'd gone into the season with quite a pessimistic outlook on it, possibly compared to what might have otherwise been the case. But after 2 games, I was looking and thinking, okay, yeah, decent. And obviously the transfer window was still open at that point. So there was still the possibility that Moyes might have brought certain pieces of the jigsaw in. I thought, maybe a little bit better than I originally anticipated. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be 3 out of 3. With the last game of August, it was a 2-2 draw against Palace. But, with Palace's season, in retrospect, they actually won a bad point. Although, then again, if you take the lead twice, you want to hold on. But Conor Gallagher scored 2 good goals for Palace. And Watson, in the end, he had obviously getting in England score, getting capped. So, JP, 7 points out of 9. Obviously, you said, we might struggle. But, sort of before the season. But 7 points out of 9, you must have been obviously delighted with that start.
Mate, buzzing. I just remember coming out of the Palace game, seeing you guys, and it was just like, what have we just seen? Where was the great performances that we'd seen the previous weeks beforehand? But yeah, we ended August still. We were top of we were first in the Premier League. Overall, you could see things there was stuff bubbling under the surface of things to come. But no, yeah, it was at the end of the day. It's unbeaten in the first month of the Premier League, regardless of the congestion of the fixtures and all the rest of it that was still to come. Anybody would have actually taken that. I was quite surprised, to be fair, that we weren't singing we're top of the league at the end of that Palace during that Palace game, like we did a couple of times when we were down in the Championship. But yeah, no, it was very, very, very good start. It could have been a lot worse than that. Bearing in mind, Palace is always a bit of a bogey team, especially when we travel to their place. They give us a bit of a run around at home as well, like you guys are saying. Leicester are odds on to finish top 10 relatively every season now. Their Premier League win taken out of that equation, obviously that helped bolster everything to come. But they've been an absolute nightmare to play against. In Newcastle, if I remember correctly, we were losing once, then drew it back, and then came to 2-1 at half time, as you said, Bill, and then we actually, like you said, second half, everything just clicked, and bam! That game alone was the usual West Ham season, all in one game. The only thing that didn't happen in that game was a penalty and a red card. It was pretty much everything else.
No, exactly. It's never boring, is it? So, but speaking of boring, though, first Prem game off the international break was Southampton away, and the less said about that game, the better. It was a ball draw in more ways than one. Me and Corey managed to get the away ticket, and But the Yates in Southampton was fucking fantastic, and seeing Tottenham lose to Crystal Palace in the early kickoff was like the highlight of the day. The actual 90 minutes was pretty poor, but saying that, on another day in previous seasons, West Ham would have lost that game. I think Brozier hit the post in the second half. So anyway, less said. It was 0-0. Less said about that game, the better. But the first Europa League game was against Dinamo Zagreb away, and on paper it was our hardest fixture in the group stage, and we beat them 2-0. So yeah, JP, what a perfect start in the Europa League.
100%, and of course that we remember that run that Declan Rice did for his goal in that game as well, and Antonio's cheeky goal that he didn't think was going in by the looks of it. Just fortunately the goalkeeper came out and he took his chance, but it was just. It was just like the perfect start, the absolute perfect start. It was like for the majority of that game, we looked like we'd already played them. We'd played them before. There was no first time nerves or anything like that. It was just an unbelievably good performance in that game.
No, it was, and I'm sure you agree, Gatesy, with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's. Dinamo Zagreb is a team that I've got some decent knowledge of, and I did sort of think, this could be a potential banana skin. It was anything but. I mean, we again, like the Leicester game, we played really well. We dealt with their threats, and we managed to get a couple of goals. Was it Antonio, wasn't it? Didn't he score from a tight angle and Lanzi? Was it Lanzi? Rice. Yeah. Rice scored. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a good start. I mean, we could have fluffed our lines, but we didn't. We played well, and were deserving winners of and away from home as well. It could have been an awful lot worse, but to come away two goals and 3 points in the bag. Fantastic, bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's considering, it was, Dinamo Zagreb experience in European competitions. We are obviously sort of fairly novice in comparison to them, but we played like the side that were, experienced in a European competition. They played like the novices, so a testament to how well the boys play. But come back down to earth slightly with I'd lost in the on the game on the Sunday against Man United at home. So much happened in that game. I mean, obviously, it's written in the stars that the script writers had a field day with Jesse Lingard smashing a winner in near the end, and then Mark Noble coming on as a sub, and in the last minute, in his first touch, his penalty was saved by David De Gea. But I mean, we'll talk about United later, but how we lost to them twice in the league, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, Gatesy, I mean, obviously it's the first defeat of the season, but even so, we weren't exactly outclassed by Man United.
No, I thought we were well worth at least a point. I mean, we went 1-0 up. Was it Ben Rama after about half an hour? Held the lead for about 5 minutes. Ronaldo equalises. And yeah, I mean, like you say, we were the better team by a distance as far as I was concerned. And I don't think that I'm saying that as a myopic West Ham fan. I think that people that were at the game, people that watched it live on the telly would have attested to that. But we just couldn't get that second goal. And then, of course, like you say, you just knew when Jesse Lingard got introduced from the bench.
Yeah.
You kind of thought, because I'm not being funny, it happens every time, doesn't it? An old West Ham player comes back to where they once plied their trade, and you know they're going to score. I mean, we had it with Tony Cottee, we had it with Rio Ferdinand, we've had it with Frank Lampard many times. Jermaine Defoe. Yeah. It's a who's who of ex-West Ham players that come back, and it's like we go, there you go, help yourself. And you just knew, sort of like when it dropped to him, was it the 89th minute, and you're thinking, oh no, here we go, and he bends in at the top corner. You're like, oh, that's the 3 points gone. But then, of course, we get the penalty. And again, it's one of those things, we sit here with the benefit of hindsight, knowing what happened. I do wonder if someone else had took the penalty and they'd have missed it, I think that Moyes would have probably got all sorts of criticism for the fact that you've got one of the best
I'm
penalty
with you on
takers.
That. I'm with you on that. It was a lose-lose, really,
damned
wasn't
if you
it?
do, damned if you don't. If
you're right.
Someone else, if Antonio or Rice had taken the pen and De Gea saves it, or they blaze it over the bar or whatever, everyone's going to turn around and say, you've got one of the best penalty takers sat on the bench. You had one substitution to use. Why couldn't you have brought him on just for the last kick?
Yeah.
But that was what he did, and lo and behold, De Gea makes the save, and everyone then turns around and says, "Oh, that should never have happened. You shouldn't have done that." Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, agree. But we got a bit of revenge in the next game, the Carabao Cup away at Old Trafford, with a much changed side, and I think was it Lanzini who got the winner. So a bit of revenge, JP, and obviously, as I say, much changed team. But even so, we I think from what I remember, I think we deserved to even win that game as well.
Absolutely, mate. And it's a lot more than a little bit of revenge, man. You can blatantly see that Moyes went out and said, right, these are the mistakes we made. Go out and correct them. And he 100% did it. You're right. It was a very changed side for Man United, but they still put out a very, very strong side with that. And yeah, we played the better football. It was just like, okay, Man United, little bit of a blip at home, smashing them at Old Trafford. Move on. It's just like nobody. The only people that were bleating on about it was that we never should have won. It was the bloody Spurs supporters. That's all. They were thinking about it more than we were, from what I saw on social media.
Yeah, no, agreed, mate. So in the Premier League, a good win against Leeds away. Always great when you score in the last minute to win a match. I bet the limbs and in the away in the Ella Road were absolutely crazy. So a good result there, and rounded off the September with a good comfortable win against Rapid Vienna at home, and. 6 points out of 6 in the Europa League, and a good start in the Premier League was absolutely perfect in my eyes, Gatesy.
Yeah, like I say, you throw the Europa League excursion in. You had the 2 games involved in that particular month. You had the game away at Old Trafford, and like you say, you got a measure of revenge there. Yeah, September was a pretty decent month, all told, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, agreed. All right, let's move on to October. So we didn't get off to the best start. A 2-1 defeat at home to Brentford. Now, at the time, you thought, okay, it's disappointing, but again, on reflection of Brentford's season, I mean, in the end, they did the double over us, which we'll touch on later. But I mean, they played. I think they deserved it. I think it's one of them. It doesn't matter who you play, whether it's a Man City or even Norwich. If they're the better side and deserve to win, it's like, well, you can't really grumble. I think Brentford deserved it. But if it's more annoying because they scored in the last minute as well, I think that makes it more frustrating, especially as we equalised with about 20 minutes to go, whatever it was, Bowen with the goal. So yeah, a bit of a shame with that one. But we got a win against Everton away. We can't always complain about that. Or one with the winner, so we're back on track, and then continued our fantastic Europa League run with a 3-0 win at home to Genk. I mean, yeah, it was, we kept on going, JP.
Absolutely, mate. And I'm sure you talk about. There's one other game you haven't mentioned yet, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But well, 2 games technically, but no, it was. I thought Brentford played pretty well in that game. I thought they played very, very well. And again, we kind of touched on it with our performance in the Europa League against Zagreb. Brentford looks full of confidence. Looked like they were used to playing in the Premier League in stadiums of that size, and yeah, it was disappointing, of course. But yeah, we went on, like I say, it was a good victory over Everton. Also did Villa away, if I remember correctly, as well, for that matter.
Oh, that's later on.
But yeah, and but also yeah, and that Genk game was incredible. It's just like, hang on a second, what's going on here? We should be out by now. This is not West Ham. What the hell's happening? But no, very, very enjoyable halfway through the month of October, definitely.
Yeah, and they got even better with a 1-0 win over our arch rivals Tottenham.
See, that was the game I was referring to. I knew you were going to mention it straight after.
Different kettle of fish. Tottenham at that stage of the season under Nuno Espirito Santo. I don't think he got sacked not long after that.
Yeah, they should have kept him.
Yeah, got it. But then, and then in the Carabao Cup, or I should say the Man City Cup, over their success in that competition, we beat them. It was 0-0. It was a decent game actually. I was there. Somehow goalless, a very high quality match, and it went to penalties. And West Ham we won on penalty shootout, 5-3 on pens, and Craig Dawson's called probably the best penalty I've ever seen. He's stuck it in the top bins. Absolutely brilliant. And then we rounded off the month in the most perfect style with a 4-1 win away at Aston Villa. We've got a good record at Villa Park over the past couple of seasons. So yeah, Gatesy. I mean, that's a perfect end to October. Yeah,
and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we were possibly the reason why Villa or part of the reason anyway, why Villa and Spurs changed their managers, because I don't think that either Nuno or Dean Smith lasted too much longer after we took care of their respective teams.
I think with Villa, we were one of that was one of their 5 defeats in a row before we got the same.
Yeah, I mean, it was the international break shortly after, which also helped. But yeah, the remit seems to be right. You get beaten by West Ham, you're out the door.
we're like sort of like the Grim Reaper of Premier League managers.
Yeah.
That's what Moyes has got. He's got to wear one of those Grim Reaper suits,
doesn't he?
Didn't someone when he was? I think it was at Man United. I think it's someone on the at Goodison Park. I swear someone wore a Grim Reaper suit when he was a United manager, but I could be wrong. anyway. But it was perfect start, as you say, lads. Perfect into October, I should say.
And very still good. Finishing 4th in the table at the end of that month as well. Everyone was buzzing with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right, let's move into November. So. Our 100% run in the Europa League come to an end. Still unbeaten though, so we got a 2-2 draw away at Genk, and then we beat a number of big sides. Well, I say big, we beat Tottenham in October. In terms of the in terms of the size challenger for the league, anyway. I mean that was 3-2 win against Liverpool. I mean, for me, that's one of the best games I've seen live as a West Ham fan. I mean, to beat. I'm pretty sure Liverpool were unbeaten at the time. They only lost 2 games in the Premier League all season, and we were one of them. So that was an outstanding game, and against a real outstanding team. I mean, JP. We're full of confidence, but even going into the Liverpool game, but even so to beat them, a high quality side and deserve it as well. I mean, it was just incredible being there.
Absolutely, and as far as I'm concerned, we'll touch on this a little bit later. But as far as I'm concerned, second best atmosphere of the season. That was just unreal because of how well we were playing. The boys were just Liverpool gave a good fight as well, but because it was Fabianski, because Fabianski hadn't picked his injury up yet, had he? Fabianski was in goal for this, if I remember right, wasn't it?
I think he only missed the one league game, didn't he? I thought it was against Man United away.
Yeah, Fabianski was in goal.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember if it was Areola or Fabianski. It was an unbelievably good night. Such a good performance. The atmosphere was just being buoyed by it. Everyone was just buzzing because you could see that Liverpool were there for the taking. And yeah, they only really lost to anybody other than of merit has been Real Madrid. So
yeah, exactly.
A good month.
Yeah, you obviously must have been happy with that Liverpool result, Gatesy, as well.
Oh, massively. I mean, like your boys have touched on, I mean, I believe at that point they were undefeated and we were one of only 2 teams in the Premier League to actually take all 3 points off of them. I mean, absolutely magnificent. I mean, just sort of looking at the goal scorers, Alisson own goal, Souček got a goal on the 45 plus 7 minutes.
That's Fornals' goal. It's not an own goal.
Yeah,
it's Fornals' goal.
Yeah, I know what you're looking at, Gates. Souček got a yellow card then. He didn't score.
Oh, sorry. Fornals, then Zuma, sorry.
I know it was awarded as Alisson an own goal because the people that love football hate West Ham, but there's no way in hell that's not Fornals' goal. No way.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Bonner would have a shout at that first goal as well. But yeah, no, a brilliant result against obviously a world-class team. But back down to earth in the next league game, after the international break, we lost to Wolves 1-0. They had a good season, so I've got no complaints about that. But back to winning ways in the Europa League against Rapid Vienna, 2-0, and another comfortable result. But unfortunately, at the end of the month, we lost to Man City. But a team that won the league again, Man City, fantastic at home, and our record there isn't that brilliant. So just one of those things. But I mean, mixed bag in November, Gatesy. But I mean, we're still on track in the Premier League, but also in the Europa League as well.
Yeah, I mean, looking here, 13 games gone. I think, according to this, we're still in 4th position. So, yeah, the month was, like you say, it was a little bit of a sort of mixed bag, but we're still in 4th position in the Premier League. So, no reason to panic at this stage. So, yeah, all good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right, let's go into December now. And we played our bogey side Brighton, and we thought if we, how the game finished with Mopé scoring an absolute screamer of an overhead kick, we thought we're never going to beat Brighton now. We're 1-0 up, in control, and then they had a couple of chances, but their first big opportunity was their fucking equaliser. JP, as I say, we probably deserved to win it, but we thought if we can't win this game, then we're never going to beat them.
Mate, we haven't got enough time to talk about this game. We generally haven't. But no, all jokes aside, Graham Potter's done unbelievably good business with Brighton. He's got them playing proper football, balls to bones. He's sorted everything out. He's got decent players in. Brighton were the better side, and yeah, especially the good chunk of the second half, they were definitely the better side. And yeah, it's just one of those irritating fucking fixtures that we just can't, how we were able to smash them when we were down at the Championship and have not been able to do it in a decade since. I'll never know. It's one of those things. It is just really fucking irritating. But but no, it's just another bogey team we add to the ever continuing list.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but didn't Rosolo rules too long. Another brilliant result, another 3-2 win, and this time at home against Chelsea. They were right up there at this stage. So Gatesy, another fantastic win against at the time a title challenger.
Well, not just that, they were the European, and were they at that point the World Club champions, or were they? Yep. They were. So yeah. So at the time we beat them, they were the World and European champions. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah,
Any victory like that.
Especially going behind as well.
Question for you guys, really, really quickly. Masuaku, cross or a goal?
Cross.
Oh, definitely a cross.
He admitted it himself, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely a cross. But
I've seen certain little corners of social media. People are still debating still to this day if he meant it or not.
At the end of the day, Mendy didn't get it. I didn't save it, so
it ended up in the back of the net. So you're like, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, it's like the goal that Paul Konchesky got in the 06 final. It's like, that was a cross all day long and twice on a Sunday, but he scored in the cup final. I don't think he cares.
Yeah, well, it went in, and the same with Masuaku's one. But I think again, testament to our resolve. Not for the first time in the season just gone. We were 2-1 down on stroke of half time. Mason Mount, what a volley that was! What fair play to him. And then Bowen equalised, and then Masuaku with that obviously fortuitous winner. But I mean another fantastic result, Gatesy. Eh?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not the game that Ogbonna got his injury?
And Johnson as well, if I remember correctly. We had 2 out of that game, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean that obviously. Again, benefit of hindsight and all that.
It's Zuma that went off, and Johnson. You're right, yeah, Zuma and Johnson, yeah. But even so, it was.
Because Ogbonna was the next week, if I remember right, wasn't it, or something stupid like that?
Yeah, it was around the same time, wasn't it? Yeah, but another fantastic result against Chelsea, and then a bit of a dead rubber, but it was good to see some of the youngsters playing in the last group stage game. We lost to Dinamo Zagreb. They scored early doors, but great to see some of the youngsters. Play for West Ham, so it was good to see them, albeit a defeat.
Some of them have never been seen since, but,
but
some we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one we've had.
And then the next game, less said about the next game, the better 0-0 away against Burnley. We'll move on. And then it's not typical away at Arsenal. That's one of our bogey grounds at the Emirates. They always seem to beat us at the Emirates, and they did so with a 2-0. A 2-0 win for Arsenal, and then unfortunately in the Carabao Cup against Tottenham, unfortunately Nuno Espirito Santo wasn't in charge of that game. It was Antonio Conte, and we went down 2-1, which is a shame. And then Boxing Day, I mean 3-2 against Southampton. I mean that was really frustrating. Especially Southampton, they're obviously not the greatest side, but they fair play to them. They play well. But I mean, it was again Gates is a bit of a obviously, and then the last day of a couple of days later on the 28th we bounced back and beat Watford easily 4-1 away. But again a bit of a mixed bag for West Ham. But I mean, I wouldn't say we were outplayed even maybe the Arsenal game. But apart from that, we weren't exactly outplayed by most of the other teams we played in December.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. At this point in the month of December, like you say, we obviously had the defeat to Arsenal. Yes, we had a player sent off. Defeat at home to Southampton, and we was always chasing that particular game. The game that JP was saying, Brighton just does his head in, and I'm with him on that. It's like for Christ's sakes, no disrespect to Brighton. They're a well-run club and all the rest of it, but. Come on, you're at home. You're sort of like a European team. Come on, put this team away for Christ's sakes. But no, can't do it. This was possibly the point where I was starting to think that my thoughts in the summer months of European football, Premier League football, and everything else could start to bite at this point. So it was very much a mixed bag.
No, it wasn't. And do you agree with that, JP?
100%. Yeah, I mean that Spurs quarter-final game. So many mistakes leading to those goals. It was unreal. Ashby had a fantastic game in that at right back because if I remember correctly, it was the early stages of Soufal's injury. And then as I say, we touched on it as well. Johnson was out as well, so one of the player I absolutely rate. Really rate the juniors played unbelievably well in the Europa League home game. All right, it was a worldie of a worldie that we conceded very early doors on, but that's all they needed to get through. So they didn't really make much more of a push other than that. But I thought the kids played very well. So some of them unfortunately look like they're going to be leaving in the next, if they haven't already done so, in the next week or so, which is a real shame. but for one reason or another. But in general, as I say, definitely a mixed bag. But yeah, it was difficult, losing 2 North London derbies in the space of a week and a half, and yeah, just painful. But they were better sides. I mean, we're nowhere near as bad as we used to be in those sort of situations. I mean, I remember being at the Emirates on when we, like for example, we were 1-1 up, sorry, 1-1 at half time, with a Jack Collinson goal late at the end of the first half, and Arsenal came out and smashed us 5-1 in the second half. Those days are completely gone now, which I'm absolutely loving. But yeah, it was we were 5th in the table by the end of December. You can't argue with that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that Arsenal game our biggest defeat? I'm trying to remember,
I never stat that we haven't been beat by more than 2 goals in like 2 years or something like that.
2 or 3 seasons, yeah, because we were losing to City like 5 or 6-0 under Pellegrini and stuff, ironically.
Yeah.
But yeah, over the last 3 seasons, we haven't lost more than by more than 2 goals, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable resilience. I think it has to be recognised that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And but we bounced back. The start of the New Year's Day was the perfect start to 2022. I was there at Selhurst Park. I mean, what result that was. It should have been more. It ended up being 3-2. It should have been 3. It should have been 4-0, 5-0 to West Ham. We played outstandingly, especially in that first half, and that goal from Manuel Lanzini in particular. That move was just outstanding. It was brilliant being there. So that was a perfect start to the new year, and then we beat Leeds in the FA Cup 2-0. That was a comfortable result, and the same again against Norwich. That was a midweek game. That was 2-0. But I think at the time, also we touch on the transfer window in a minute. But I think. When it comes to the Leeds, the return, return game, in the Premier League at home, we lost 3-2. I mean, I think at that point, I think obviously the injuries were picking up, the squad was being stretched a bit, and at the time no signings, and ultimately there were no signings in January. But I think at that time we were just being stretched, and that we followed that Leeds defeat with a loss in the last minute to Man United at Old Trafford. So Gatesy, that same 2 defeats in a row, which is very rare for West Ham this season. But I think at that time the squad has probably been too stretched, eh?
Yeah, I mean, not just that. The reason I sort of pull the face is again, and we referenced it earlier with the home game against Manchester United. We were the better team in that game. I felt we were worth at least a point in this game, and it's like, how have we managed to lose this again in the last minute, for goodness sake? Rashford did bugger all last season for Man United, managed to take 3 points off of us. And when you look at where we finished in the Premier League, that was crucial, absolutely crucial.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, JP, was a great start to January, but I think we just started to run out of steam at the end of January.
Completely agree with you. We all remember the meltdown of January 31st. I mean, Bill, you and I were going on loads of other different channels saying the same sort of stuff, unfortunately. So, I mean, obviously, we didn't touch on the summer signings, but it's, to not bring a striker in the third window after you sold a striker, reliant on a very, very overused Antonio, which we all love and hate him at the same point. But he's always been that player that you'll be frustrated and you'll love him within the same bloody breath a lot of the time. But a lot of people were starting to worry. The usual sort of suspects were panicking for the sake of it, but we were still holding our own in the Europa League. So it was understandable that something was going to be. I can't say sacrifice is not the right word to put, but there's no other word that you can use to describe it, because everything was focusing on the Europa League. So, but it's obviously getting Conor Coventry back, and then he buggered off back out again very quickly on loan over to MK Dons, but we were still floating around the top 6 at that point. So it was, the bigger picture was looking rosy. Yes, okay, the the other bigger picture wasn't so rosy because, as we all know, we did fuck all in January. So we might as well just not. I mean, I was like everybody else. I kind of thought that collector card deal was going to go through, and it's just like at least we're going to bring somebody in. But no, that didn't happen. And yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, in hindsight, it turned out to be fine. But at the time, the usual pessimism of West Ham season ticket holders or fans in general that have known the club for the last 25, 30 years were just like, here we go, back to normal.
Yeah, I think it was there was some sort of justified, not fear as such, but I think reality in terms of like I remember one of the Sam Allardyce season, it might have been his last season actually, where like we were I think 4th or 5th around Christmas time, and we ended up like 12th.
I think we were second, weren't we? Or was it second?
At one point we were, yeah, but around Christmas we were 4th in the table. Yeah, that's when we had Alex Song and all that lot, wasn't it?
And I think we ended up finishing 12th. Had a terrible second half of the season. So I think I think ultimately our squad, as proved, was better than that team. But I think there was that, you know, there was that fear that, you know, would lack of signings cost us. I think it maybe did a little bit in terms of could we have finished 5th or 6th. I think with a striker, I think we could have done, but you know, at the end of the day, it didn't actually cost us a huge amount, luckily. But in terms of, let's move on to February. I mean, the results will pick up in February, but the performances just weren't. I think, as I say, I think the you know, the sort of the lack of signings, as we said, and the you know, the injuries were sort of mounting up really for us. I mean, the Kidderminster game, look, the score says 2-1, but my goodness, I mean, what's that BBC?
Yeah, and what was the 90? What was the minute for the second?
Yeah, oh god, yeah. So, but fucking fair play to Kidderminster. What performance they put in for a National League, not even National League, so National League North. Like even below that, but absolutely outstanding. They deserve to win. We played shockingly. We played like the National League North side and you know, non-league side. So, but you know,
one of the very few occasions that I can honestly say, hand on heart, that I watched my team win and felt, mate, seriously.
Yeah,
I think that should have been the other team, 100%.
I felt so weird celebrating wildly twice when Rice and obviously Rice, especially when Rice got equalised and Bowen got the winner in the last minute of extra time. Like I'm celebrating, like I'm celebrating beating Kidderminster. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it was just fucking strange, but yeah, that's just obviously a testament to how well they played and how shit we were.
But to be fair, when was the last time we celebrated being in the FA Cup in February and still not losing a game in the league? That's the reason why we were like that, was just the fact that we were celebrating. I know what you mean, Bill, but you know, from my point of view, when we were doing the watch along, we were celebrating because we had beaten the better team when we were absolutely dog shit. It was just unreal. Like, for example, you know, we can't look over the fact that Yarmolenko dived to get a penalty. You know, as much as I love the bloke, you've got to admit that happened. You know, and it was but yeah, a very, very lucky month in many, many ways in February, and we came through that the better for it, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, JP. In that we've played crap and we've come away with the win, which is you would suggest usually the mark of a good team. Do you know what I mean? If you can play poorly and come away with a win, in ordinary circumstances, I'd go fine, but not when you're a tier 1 team and you're playing tier 6.
Yeah,
that's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
We should have been able to put out our reserves and take care of them. And to be fair, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Rice started on the bench and he came on at half time when we was 1-0 down.
Well, I mean,
and obviously he was the one that scored the equaliser.
And that was
Bowen obviously gets the winner in the last embers of extra time. But seriously, that should have been that game should have been over at a canter. But fair play to Kidderminster.
Yeah, and I think that performance from Alex Crow in the first half when he was hauled off at half time. I think that yeah, exactly. I think that summed up to David. I think that confirmed with David Moyes' mind that he's not cut out for this club. So
I think there was only 2 people in the West Ham fan base that actually watched the Euros, because me and David Moyes. Because everyone was raving about how Crow.
Yeah, I watched it as well, and I didn't think it was all that.
I didn't
Crown.
either.
Exactly.
I wasn't
Everybody
impressed.
everyone was thinking, all right, well, he's played with Souček and Soufal is going to be brilliant, without actually realizing what he actually can't do, which is a lot more than he can, unfortunately.
No, yeah, well, I mean, we'll come into it later, but he definitely won't be our signing of the season. But anyway, yeah, obviously, we want to get to Kidderminster, we want to get to Watford, you know, bit of a scrappy game, but we got the win again. It's one of them where if you're a good side, you don't play at your maximum, but you get the results, and that was one of them. So got the win there, and then same against Leicester. It was 2-2. Craig Dawson equalised in the last minute again. You know, not particularly, weren't playing well, but you know, that's, as I keep saying it, but that's what the sides who qualify for Europe season in season out, they don't play it out their skin every single game, but they still get the 3 points. So we managed to get a point there, which is great. And then Newcastle, obviously it was a different Newcastle than who we played in the first game. Obviously Eddie Howe was the manager. They were in really good form at the time, obviously under the Saudi ownership, and they gave us a really good game. Even Jolinton, I mean, he was a £40 million flop when he was signed as a striker a couple of seasons ago, but at the time, I mean, I think he was probably man of the match when he played us in midfield. He was outstanding.
Yeah, what a job Eddie Howe's done. I mean, I know you could turn around and say, oh, but he's backed by an oil-rich country, but I mean, fundamentally, he walked into a club that, what was it, they'd lost, or not lost, but they hadn't won in their first 14 Premier League games,
that's
and
right.
he got them to a mid-table finish.
Yeah. I think the improvement in players, John Joe Shelvin, I think Jolinton, as I say, contribute that as well as the signings they made as well.
Cracking midfielder that kid was as well, and obviously, you know, league wise, we only lost to Spurs in that month.
Well, we didn't play Spurs in February.
Sorry, we're talking about March now, aren't we?
No, I haven't finished February yet.
Sorry,
So we've round off February with the win against Wolves. They were in great form at the time, Wolves, but we managed to get the result. And I think that was the catalyst of their downturn, because they had a shocking end to the season, Wolves. But we managed to beat them. I think Souček got the goal. So. So, well, JP, you want to talk about March? So here we go. Here's March. FA Cup loss against Southampton, which was a disappointment. But I think their left back scored an absolute worldie from what I remember. So it was just one of those. Lost against Liverpool away again. I think we, like last few seasons, we've played well at Anfield, but ultimately Liverpool have got the win. So we were unlucky there. And it was another 1-0 defeat. Again, we played decently. It was the Europa League round of 16 against Sevilla away. Lost 1-0 thanks to a well-taken set piece from them, or a good move anyway. But we ended up with a 1-0 defeat, but still in it, as proven later. But then, we bounced back from that with a 2-1 win against Aston Villa, who were going well under Steven Gerrard at the time. And then probably one of the games of the entire season, no doubt about it, the second leg against Sevilla, which we won 2-0 after extra time. I mean Gatesy, for me, that's one of the best games I've ever been to. That's no exaggeration. I'm sure other West Ham fans would agree. I think it was obviously vital. We only lost 1-0 in the first leg, and obviously with the away goals rule not being a factor this season, I think that certainly helped us. We're 2-0, and for me to be absolutely dominant as well against the king. They should rename it the Sevilla Cup. The amount of times they've won it six times in the history. I think all of them in the past 16 years. So to beat them comfortably in the second leg, okay, we needed extra time, but still, that was just. It was one of them. I was there. It was amazing.
Yeah, and obviously the Yarmolenko's the one that obviously got a lot of the plaudits, and rightly so. Obviously, with the situation in his home nation, and it was fairy tale stuff that he obviously gets the goal that takes us into from the last 16 to the quarterfinals against, like you say, a team that have pretty much dominated this competition for a good while now. no mugs at all, and he's got the winning goal to take us through. But I must just say that I think an awful lot of the credit for going through to the quarterfinals has to go to Alphonse Areola, because that save that he made
that was
at
incredible.
0-0 on the night, he doesn't make that save. It's 1-0 on the night, 2-0 on aggregate. It's a long, long way back. But he made that save from En-Nesyri and preserved, obviously, parity on the night. And we all know what happened then. But I mean, the crowd, again, the atmosphere at the ground. I was there with my kids. It's one of those nights, like you say. It's one of those I was there matches. You know, I think of the last game at the Boleyn. I think of the game in 2004 against Ipswich in the playoff semi-final, second leg.
Really good shout,
people of my dad's generation will say the Eintracht Frankfurt semi-final, second leg. It's one of those. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those where you can sort of go, I was there, and you can turn around and tell your kids, you can turn around and tell your grandkids, and all the rest of it. I was there. I witnessed that. I was part of that night.
Yeah, no, spot on, mate. Totally agree. I mean, JP, same to you. I mean, obviously we're touching on the Tottenham game, which we went to, back down to earth. We'll touch on that in a minute. But the second against Sevilla, I mean, that was, as me and Gates have said, it was absolutely incredible.
It was just that was game of the season as far as I'm concerned. It was, especially when it comes to the atmosphere. It was just there was a little bit. Normally we'd get a little bit of trepidation going into that, as we'll talk about for the next month. But yeah, it was about as close as you can possibly get to Gatesy, what those fixtures you're talking about. The last game at the Boleyn as well. The losing to Man U and coming back to win it at the last. Winston Reid with the last goal of the ever to be scored there and stuff. It was just it's like I said at the start of it. It was a history making performance. Fantastic goal from Souček to get the game up and running, sort of thing. And it was just. Yeah, it's just there's no. I don't think we will ever see. We might see more important games than that in the future, but in terms of atmosphere, I don't think that can be beaten. I really don't think it can.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with that, mate. It's going to take some while to beat that. But yeah, as I said, JP, we were there for the Tottenham away game, and Gatesy, we saw you there as well, mate.
I was there as well. Yeah.
Unfortunately, as I say, back down to earth. Tottenham, fair play. Look, they deserved it. Fair play to them. Can't grumble. And I have to say, for gritted teeth, their stadium is incredible. I'm saying that through the grittiest of teeth.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the rest of it looks like a bloody office block.
But I think JP, you were on my vlog my vlog very kindly, and at the end you said it wasn't the most important game of that week, and that was true, wasn't it?
Completely. And also one of the funny things about that, it was literally, if anybody hasn't watched that, go and check it out. It's a very, very funny vlog in a couple of places, but you can hear me going, that's perfect, because genuinely before that goal was scored, Gates, I said to Bill, Creswell needs to get the ball over to the left-hand side of the goal, and that's where the goal was going to be scored. And that's exactly what happened a few seconds later.
That's it. Perfect.
You could hear it. You could hear it in the background going, "Back post, perfect!" And then he volleys it in the goal. If he said perfect and he still guys it would have been. It would have gone viral. It would have gone viral for the wrong reasons. But luckily, it went in the back of there. But unfortunately for West Ham, that was only one bright spark of that match. Unfortunately,
yeah, it was, and that when it was coming from the fan base, it wasn't coming from the game. That was for sure, because it was a hard watch to do. But at the same point, yeah, you could tell that the fatigue was hitting in big time, because I think what was it? We'd used the same, was it 18 players all season, pretty much,
something like that, yeah.
Give or take. I remember we were certainly down the relegation zone in terms of changes in the side for the season. That was for sure, and it was those games were proving it. But yeah, I said it in my match reaction, and I still maintain it. We had bigger fish to fry in the coming weeks.
We had a change of formation at that game, if I remember rightly. We played 3 at the back, didn't we? And I don't know about you. I'm never a fan of changing to 3 in the back. We're normally 4-2-3-1, and it served us well in the main. I think that Moyes tried to match up with what we know that Conte's default formation is, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, especially when Masuaku obviously playing
Oh,
as a wing back. He was at fault for the first goal.
He was, yeah. And also trying to do his Chelsea goal as well. Every single time we joked about this throughout the rest of the season after the Chelsea game, because every time he comes down, he gets on the pitch and he runs down the wing, you can just see he's trying to do the same goal again to see if he can do it. It was, but yeah, it was very, very frustrating game. Spurs away, very frustrating.
No, definitely. Right, should we take a break, lads, for a couple of minutes?
Can I just say what was really frustrating about that match? I think you know this, Bill, but I'm not too sure you do, John. My wife's a Spurs fan.
Oh God! Right, let's move on to April. So the start of April was good for West Ham, beating Everton 2-1, obviously in a relegation battle at the time, and then it was the first leg against Lyon in the quarterfinals. It ended up being 1-1. Anne Cresswell got sent off, but despite that, took the lead and. And then in Ndombele, who was on loan from Tottenham at the time, he was on loan at Lyon. He got the equaliser. And then Brentford, mentioned them earlier, they did the double over us when they won 2-0 at the Brentford Community Stadium. Before I come on to the second leg, I mean, it was Gatesy, obviously good to beat Everton. Obviously shame to lose to Brentford, but it was the Lyon game, the first leg. I mean, obviously. We wanted to obviously try and get an advantage for the second leg, but as I said earlier, the away goals didn't really matter, and I thought that we actually, despite having 10 men, I think we actually played pretty well against Lyon.
How many times did we hit the bar or woodwork? Was it 4? I mean,
lost count, mate.
Yeah, we were the better team, even with a man disadvantage for 45 minutes. We can talk about whether the red card was justified or not, but it was given, and that's all there is to it. But that even sort of taken into account, we battered them, absolutely battered them. But I mean, the atmosphere wasn't quite at the same level as Seville. I guess that's probably as a result of the fact that it wasn't the second leg, it was the first leg sort of thing. Yeah. So it's a completely different dynamic. So it's probably difficult. It's probably unfair to expect that the atmosphere was going to live up to that previous experience. But the atmosphere was still decent, don't get me wrong. But I did come away from there thinking, no, this isn't over. If we just need a slice of luck or a little bit of quality in the final third away from home, if we can get a sort of fairly early goal, that's great. This 1-1, I wasn't sort of thinking that, oh God, we're going to get spanked or anything like that when we go to Lyon. I still believed we could do something.
Yeah, agreed. Do you agree with that, JP?
100%. This was the game I was intimating earlier about the nervy atmosphere. You can argue it didn't need to be like that because of all the atmospheres previously, but again, going down very, very early, going behind it very, very early, I should say, caused it, myself included.
No, we took the lead against Lyon in that game.
Sorry, I'm thinking ahead. Sorry, yeah, but yeah, it was very, very was very, very nervy for a lot of that game. But at the same point, it was better atmosphere later into the game when everybody was realizing we were starting to really crack on with stuff as well. But in general, yeah, it was still very, very happy with at least with the start of April anyway.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the second leg now against Lyon. I mean, an absolutely incredible scoreline and performance by West Ham, winning 3-0 against a good side in Lyon who've had they've had Champions League experience, let alone Europa League experience, and it was outstanding. I mean, JP, that was just an incredible performance by the guys.
It was. It really, really was, and just coming out of the ground, the atmosphere was just, everybody was absolutely elated with that going into the semis. So it was just, there's nothing much more. I mean, because March and April will definitely focuses and definitely May will always go down to everybody's memories as the Europa League months.
Yeah, definitely. And Gates, I mean, if someone was to say West Ham would beat Leon 3-0 away in the second leg, you thought you were barking mad. But I mean, but again, we deserved it. And you know, obviously Craig Dawson with a bullet header and Rice with a good goal, and Bowen early in the second half. It was just the stuff of dreams.
And if UEFA hadn't have got their noses into it, I'd have been there. I had a ticket, and then they took it away from me. Can't believe it. But I still made the journey, and it was a fun event and great atmosphere in Lyon itself. The pubs were packed with claret and blue, and yeah, I mean Dawson popped up, put the ball in the onion bag. Rice and Bowen did the business. We controlled that game. We bossed it. It was a magnificent thing to see unfold before my very eyes. And yeah, to come away from that, and it's like we're in a semi-final. We're in a semi-final. The last time we'd made a European semi-final, I wasn't even a year old. I was like, this is incredible. What a time to be alive.
Well, that makes me feel all right because I wasn't even born then, so I'm happy with that.
Just giving me age away. Oh, right. Everybody knew, so that's fine.
But yeah, then back down to earth after that amazing result, slightly with West Ham drew 1-1 against Burnley. That was the first game where Mike Jackson was in interim charge against Burnley. So the 1-1 draw, and then a narrow 1-0 defeat away at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and then it comes to the semi-final, the first leg against Frankfurt, and you said it earlier, JP. You know, it was Frankfurt who scored in the first minute. It was a party atmosphere, but it was a bit of a party pooper with Knauf who scored in the first minute. But obviously in the end we lost 2-1 to Frankfurt. You know, well drilled and well organised side. Obviously, ultimately went on to win the competition against Rangers on penalties. But I mean, when we was you obviously to lose is disappointing, but I mean, was you optimistic for the second leg? Did you think this would be a harder test than say Sevilla and Lyon for the second legs of those times?
I was hoping so, mate, because it was just kind of like, well, you know, can we repeat what we did in the quarterfinals? You know, it was just like, you know, okay, you know, we've been dragging around a little bit, but you know, can we really build on that and build everything? But yeah, you after the first leg of that, mate, you're absolutely right. It felt like we were, from the party atmosphere, left with the bill at certain points of it, because it was just like that. And as I say, because it was just like I generally can't describe it. I'm still trying to figure it out, because it was just kind of like, well, it's the biggest thing we've ever seen for a long time. Yet it just shows the passion for a lot of people, because it was just once we were conceding that, you know, the atmosphere totally changed. It was, everyone was back to basics, like we were playing back down in the championship, like that last second loss against Ipswich. It was that sort of atmosphere. It was just like everything had dropped completely. But yeah, it was an ominous feeling, to say the least. And then obviously going into the second leg and everything that happened with that. But at the end of the day, it was nothing but pride for how West Ham went in the Europa League. It's just and the season in general is just perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no.
I mean, obviously not perfect's not the right description, because perfect would have been we could have got to the final and gone the whole hog. But from a West Ham perspective, it was perfect.
Yeah, and Gatesy, I mean, obviously they that first leg against Frankfurt. I mean, you know, West Ham sides of old would have, you know, especially after that early goal, would have crumbled and, you know, would have lost maybe 2-3-0. But, you know, we bounced back, equalised in that first half, and then obviously they got the winner in the second half. But I mean, I mean, Frankfurt played well, but equally we played well. We just didn't take our chances.
Yeah, it was just that. I think the only separator was that they were clinical in the final third, and we weren't quite as efficient as they were. Typical German efficiency, Vorsprung durch Technik, as they say. But yeah, I mean, 50 seconds in, and you're like, shit, they've scored. What? This wasn't in the script.
No.
And we were chasing the tie from that point. I mean, David Moyes alluded to it after the second leg had been completed, that was basically the point where the tie was. We was chasing it from that point on. Really disappointing. Like I say, that particular night, the first leg. But again, come away from there thinking, do you know what? We just need to make a few little adjustments here and there, and it could be all right. But the thing is, at that point, we were starting to get a few little problems, sort of like rearing their ugly head, that were born out of the fact that we had a fairly thin squad at that point. So, January, what can you do?
Yeah, no, agreed, mate. And we're coming to the last month of the season, so May. Didn't go off to the best start with a 2-1 home defeat to Arsenal. It did the double over us. But less said about that game, the better. But then, we get on to the semi-final, Saturday against Frankfurt. Obviously, I mean, Gatesy, I mean, I felt, if obviously Aaron Cresswell got sent off after about 20 minutes or so, and they scored ultimately the winner to make it 3-1 to Frankfurt. But I felt that, if Cresswell didn't get sent off, I felt we would have had a good chance of not necessarily maybe winning it on the night, but at least taking the penalties or whatever. But when you're down to 10 men against a well-drilled outfit, it's always going to be a tough ask.
Yeah, I mean, again, if he hadn't got sent off, then the game would have been completely different. I mean, he gets sent off on the 17th minute, wasn't it? Just like, not again. I mean, again, I made the trip over to Frankfurt. I was watching it in a pub there called the Fox and Hounds, and I'm sitting in this bar watching it, and when it happened, unlike the Lyon game where I was sort of like, I'm not entirely convinced that was a red card. This one I looked at and went, you prat, sort of thing. Great servant for West Ham. Don't get me wrong, I love Cressy normally, but I was looking at that just going, oh, for Christ's sakes, And now it's an uphill task because you're away from home. You're in the Lions' Den. You're 2-1 down on aggregate. You're down to 10 men. It's like, this is just going to be an uphill struggle. Then, of course, they go and get the goal to make it 1-0 on the night, 3-1. And even though it's the away goals, you could turn around and say, away goals don't matter. But two goal deficit and the clock's ticking when you're a man down away from home. Yeah, and it was always a tough ask. Yeah, I mean,
I assume you concur with that, JP?
100%. Yeah. I was talking to my new boss. He's a West Ham supporter, and we were talking about that, and he said he said that Cresswell keeps getting sent off. I was like, mate, it happened twice in the entire season. Out of 56 games, it was just twice. That's what everybody remembers. Everyone thinks he gets sent off every single game now because of it.
But it's not two really important games, weren't they?
No, I agree 100% with it.
It's not Thomas Repka.
No, exactly.
Julian
then we'd have a case, believe
me.
But no, it was disappointing. Of course, because you're absolutely right, mate. We could have been in for a shout. I think we were in for a shout a lot, even down to 10 men. To be honest with you, I think the boys put out a very, very good fight. Obviously, what happened during the game and after the game is now coming back to bite us, as it was announced this morning. Or this afternoon, I should say, with obviously Moyes getting a one-match ban for kicking the ball allegedly at nobody, which is complete bollocks. Of course, he was aiming for someone. There's no way no one's not hitting him. And, well, maybe Antonio might have missed somebody if he was in that position, but other than that, obviously Rice getting his 3-match ban for his comment after the game to the referee, which, to be fair, he shouldn't have sworn at him. If he hadn't have sworn at him, I don't think he would have got the ban that he has. But the ref was shocking, but there's no excuse for the loss in any shape or form. It was just couldn't take our chances properly, but we defended pretty well. But again, end of season fatigue, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think we'll go back to it. If we made a couple signings in January, then that might have made the difference.
Well, mate, if we'd made an attacking signing in the summer, it could have made a difference as well.
Yeah, or maybe if Vlasic played to his maximum. So we beat Norwich 4-0. A typical result away at Carrow Road with Norwich a poor side, finished bottom. But the last home game of the season was emotional for different reasons. It was Mark Noble's last ever home game as a West Ham player. The send-off was amazing, and the game itself was incredible as well. On another day, we beat Man City to go 2-0 up at half time. It was absolutely incredible. But Man City obviously ended up being champions, and they're champions for nothing. They great comeback from them. But really good performance and a great send off for Mark Noble, as I say. I mean, Gatesy, that was a great day for different reasons, eh?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you could, if you wanted to be really sort of hypercritical about it, would have been for it to be 2-2 and a penalty to get awarded and Mark Noble to stride up and put it top bins. Obviously, that would have been the fairy tale ending, but fairy tales don't very often happen, if we're being honest about it. But listen, we were 2-0 up against a fantastic Manchester City team. Let's make no mistake, they're Premier League champions for a reason. And we were 2-0 up against them and looking good for it. But you knew that they were going to have a little bit of a spell where they were going to produce chances. And if they put them away, put one goal away to make it 2-1, and you're thinking, this could change. Obviously, they did. And we came away with a 2-2 draw. But again, last game of the season, it really wasn't about... I know, obviously, you could turn around and say, what do you mean it's not about the result? Because obviously we were going for 6th place. So, yeah, all right, there is an element of that. But it was, for me, I think the overriding emotion was to pay thanks, tribute, whatever, to Mark Noble. And he'd served the club with distinction. And I like to think that the send-off he got on that particular occasion merited his service to the club.
No, spot on. And you, JP?
Yep, absolutely agree with you, Gatesy, 100%. It was a beautiful send-off for Noble. Would have been part of the fairy tale if we hadn't have lost that game, like you were saying. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we came out with a draw, which we always give Man City a good game. Whenever we're at home, we give them a good game. We give them a good game at the Etihad, to be fair, but we get less points at the Etihad. That's my only argument for that side of things. But yeah, no, it was a lovely send-off. Some touching videos from people past and present involved in it, and and as Ben Shepherd said, and in that, it was, I can't remember who he was quoting, but he said the mark of a man is not what you say or what you do, but the emotional impact you have on the person you're talking to, or words to that effect anyway. And he was absolutely spot on. Noble's been an unbelievable servant for the club for the 18 years he was with us. Embodied everybody's dream of, especially those that were born and raised in Canning Town. And he's I've always said on many occasions, Bill, you and I have had this conversation a good few times. We've all pretty much said what I'm about to say. He embodies me on the pitch. He's out there. He's fighting for the club. He wants to do everything to make sure we don't lose. And yeah, we're going to miss him heavily. But I think more because in terms of the season, we haven't really seen a change in impact for Noble not being there. Of course, he's obviously been in the changing rooms and geeing everybody up for the big games and stuff. That side of it, we're going to massively miss next season. But in terms of the performances, there's not that much of a gap. I mean, there always will be for a good few seasons, because I guarantee next season we'll be talking about games and gone, yeah, if we had Noble, he could have come on and done this differently and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, that's going to happen for the next 20 years. But no, we're all going to miss him. Even those that have that never really rated him are now turning around saying that we're showing a lot of respect for him, and it's good, and it just shows the mark of the man that he's impacted so many lives over the last 2 decades.
We're also going to miss his abilities with yard broom. It has to be said,
and cleaning up the pitch as well, for that matter. Man United at home,
and from the penalty spot, spot as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I couldn't agree more. Well said, JP. So yeah, our last game of the season was against our bogey side. We mentioned earlier, Brighton.
Can't we skip this?
Well, again, we were 1-0 up against them at half time. Me and you, JP, was on your channel doing a watch along, and but yeah,
as best as we could, yeah,
best as we could, yeah, with the feed we could find anyway, and then Brighton, that fair play, they outplayed us second half, 1-3-1. I mean, JP obviously not the best end to the season, but at the end of the day, on another day, if we get the result, we finish 6th again, but even so, finish 7th is still an outstanding achievement.
Absolutely. The 2 takeaways from this game: Antonio's goal. Everyone in the chat at the time was saying, does Antonio know we're not playing in the Champions League final? And also what Brighton did for Noble before the game. I don't know if you're able to
fair play
watch
to him,
it, but just when I got my my link up and running, they were giving the presentation to him. As much as Brighton irritated me, as I've mentioned it, and my fixture video that's going up tomorrow, I've got a lot of respect for what they did. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that sort of celebration of Noble's achievements, but they did it off their own backs, and fair play to Brighton. They still irritate the hell out of me, but they've got a bit of credit in the bank from that. But yeah, again, end of season fatigue. Couldn't take the chances. We had quite a good few chances there, especially what was it like? Bowen had a good couple of chances, as he always does per game. And also Fornals had a good couple of chances, if I remember correctly. So we could have had it, but squad depth, 56 games later, you name it. It was only we weren't gonna get anything out of it, sadly. But that's the way it goes.
No, agreed, mate. And you, Gatesy, as I said, JP, obviously not the result we wanted, but still 7th place in the league is as I said at the start of the video, the only time in our history we've had 2 top 7 finishes in the top flight. So it's still a very good achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just that, but also the first time that we've had back-to-back European qualifications via our league placing. I mean, obviously we've had in 65, we obviously qualified for the Winners' Cup by winning the season, and we then qualified the following season as the defending champions. And as we've spoke about before, we got in via not making a tackle for the last however long of the season and not getting a yellow card, and then of course Bilic the following season got us into Europe via our league placing. But to get back-to-back league finishes that allowed us to get into Europe, this is the first time we've achieved it. Yes, there's always that little thing of, but we could have got 6. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but we got to be grateful. We got to be sort of, look, it just wasn't meant to be. Sometimes you just fall a bit short, and we can all look back and micromanage it and go, if we'd have brought a striker in the summer, if we'd have brought a striker in January, if we'd have made a loan signing here, if we hadn't have brought in that player that took a loan signing out of the equation there, do you know what I mean? But it's, if my aunt had, bollocks, she'd be me uncle. One of those.
There's also a very good argument, because I can't remember what website I was reading it on the other day, but they were talking about reflecting on the whole of the season with VAR decisions, and ironically, we would have finished up with the same position we did anyway. But Man United wouldn't have had those 2 extra points they had on top of us, and therefore they would have been in the Conference League, because we both would have finished on exactly the same points, 56 points each, and we would have had the superior goal difference, so we would win back into the Europa League. But you go to you're absolutely right, mate. It's surreal but it just absolutely shows how hard everybody's been working the last 2 or 3 years. I'm not saying seasons; I genuinely mean years, because it was right from day one when Moyes came in that November. It's just everything was just before Christmas, actually, wasn't it? So end of November, beginning of December, it was just. The hard work started then, and let's hope that continues on for the next 15 years.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. Right, okay, so that's the roundup of the games we played during the season. So let's go to our end-of-season awards. So let's go to our moment of the season. I mean, there's so many to think of. It's crazy. So, Gatesy, do you want to kick off with this one? What was your moment of the season?
I'm torn between 2. I'm torn between Yarmolenko's winner against Seville, and Craig Dawson's opener in the second leg against Lyon.
Tough. I'm the same, mate. Yeah,
I think from the point of view of what his country was going through at the time and still is, I think I'm just going to lean towards Yarmolenko.
And you, JP?
Torn between those 2, and also, as I say, that Sevilla second leg. Those moments were just, if any, in years gone by, we years from now, we'll come back to this season, and I guarantee those 3 moments will be the first thing anybody thinks of when you look back at this season. Sentiment, agree with you, Gatesy, 100%. It is Yarmolenko's goal. And also, likewise, his goal against Villa at home, if I remember correctly, as well. That the way that he celebrated that as well. So it's a toss up between those two goals as it stands. But in terms of the moment of the season, yeah, I got to agree with you, Gatesy. It is that first Yarmolenko goal.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I think obviously the winner against Sevilla from Yarmolenko was an incredible moment, not only in this season but in West Ham's probably history. You'd argue, and as you say, Gatesy, obviously, how we managed to play during that period. I mean, full respect to Yarmolenko and the fact that
and also full respect to David Moyes and that lot, giving him that 2 or 3 weeks break to make sure his family's all right as well, because it's little things like that improve players, and that's why Yarmolenko played the way that he did. He felt loved again, and therefore he was feeling confident and came out and had some really, really good games with us.
Yeah, no, agreed, and had a good end to the season, and and as I mentioned earlier, to beat Sevilla, it was the opposition as well. Obviously, obviously the goal was emotional, but to beat the calibre of Sevilla, the calibre of the side, it's incredible. So to win, for that to be the winner in the Europa League, round 16, and as I say, the kings of the Europa League in Sevilla was amazing. So yeah, that was a brilliant moment. So this might be slightly easier to pick signing of the season.
Quickest.
Yeah, considering obviously we didn't sign anyone in January, and in the summer we had Vlasic, who had a mixed season. Hopefully, be better next season, and Alex Krau barely played any games whatsoever. So it's probably down to 2 players. So JP, do you want to kick off with this one?
I mean, technically, as we talked about before we went live, Dawson signed his contract to kick in at the start of the season, so you can class him as the signing of the season, but that's splitting hairs. It really is splitting hairs. It is. I'm really torn between Zuma and Areola. Really, really am. I think Areola just hedges it for me, and I do mean just like a hair's breadth, just because of that save you were talking about earlier, Gatesy, the fact that just how commanding he was. I mean, yes, okay, he made a couple of mistakes in the cup games across all the cup competitions we were talking about. He made a few mistakes, but no more than Fabianski did for the majority of that season either, for that matter. But yeah, it's Areola for me, just.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's Kurt Zuma for me. To buy someone of the quality of Zuma, obviously hope he settles in straight away, which he did. Okay, the problems off the field, but in terms of on the field, I thought he was outstanding. His quality in the air, his tackling shows real leadership qualities, and I think when he didn't play, obviously he had his injury problems. I think he was a big hole in our defence. So he was. I thought he was very. Considering how much we paid for him as well. I mean, his value's probably double that now. I think considering how well he played for us. So it's going to be Kurt Zuma for me. So. You got the casting vote, Gatesy.
I'm possibly going to be a little bit controversial, and I said before we hit record that I was going to go Zuma. I am going to slightly deviate, and it's JP that you've got to blame for this one, because I didn't stop to think that Dawson technically was. And I'm looking here, he was signed, the transfer was completed on the 9th of June 2021. So technically, as JP rightly says, he was signed during the course of the last season. So
no, I'm not having Dawson because he played for us last. Because he played for us last. He played for us last season, didn't he?
That was on loan, surely.
Yeah, then we brought him midway through. Then we brought him.
You're not going to allow that.
No, because we bought him, and hence why we got him. We're allowed another loan. So don't look at transfermarket.com. They're a great website. Okay. They're not. Do you know what I mean? So
you mean I'm torn between Nikola Vlasic and Alex.
And you can't have them.
No, it's got to be Zuma then. If I can't have Dawson, then I'm going to go with
no
Zuma.
Longer free speech on this platform, guys. It's Bill's way or the highway.
Okay, we'll edit that bit out. No, I'm joking. Okay, so right, okay, that was an easy-ish one. So this probably back to a tricky one. So goal of the season. Gates, do you want to kick off with that one?
Again, if we're talking about goal of the season from a technical standpoint and not from a standpoint of what it meant to the club, I mean, if it was what it meant to the club, Yarmolenko. against Seville. Done. If we're talking from a technical aspect, I'm probably going to go with Lanzini against Palace away.
Yeah, that was a really good team goal. Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, good shout. Any others that you would consider?
I got to turn around and say probably the goal in the last game. I know we lost, but goal from Antonio, top bins, swiveled bang from. Was it outside the box or was it on the line?
Just outside.
Yards outside the box.
I'm pretty sure it's his first goal outside the box. I think it is as well.
I've got to give him a bit of credit because let's be honest, he does something wrong, and with West Ham fans tend to sort of give him a bit of stick, and listen, rightly so. I do as well. He frustrates the living daylights out of me at times, but that was a cracking goal. Sadly, in a losing effort, but he did his job there.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. Yeah, I think at the start of the season we scored some absolute crackers of goals. One being Fornals' goal against Palace at home. The composure from Antonio was sensational. I think 2 goals in particular away at Villa. One being Ben Johnson's left-footed effort from outside the box. Was a very good strike, and equally Declan Rice's right-footed effort into the same corner from outside the box was really good. I think in the first home game against Leicester, one of Antonio's goals, his touch. Well, actually, both his goals. One to take past the defender and then score, and then one to swivel past for his Soyuncu and then bury it in the corner was very good. But for me, yeah, I think my goal of the season is, as you say, mate, Gatesy, is the one against Palace from Lanzini. Obviously, the strike was very good from him, but the team build-up was proper, West Ham way, as it were. So that's my goal of the season. What's yours, JP?
Same as you guys. Lanzini's control is those touches where he's putting the ball over a couple of players, keeping it, and then smashes it in. You're right, Bill. The build-up was unbelievably brilliant. It's just the genuine definition of the West Ham way about how we used to score goals, and him making those little spots. But you can argue 78% of Bowen's goals that he scored this season as well have been
he's one against Brentford.
Yeah,
was very good as well.
His goal against Liverpool as well, for example. Just loads of ones, but yeah, just one that's the Lanzini one sticks out in my mind the most because it was just like, wow, we haven't seen this for a long time.
Yeah, I could be an absolute shit house to say Masuaku's goal against Chelsea, but I'm not going to. No, that's definitely not. The cross of the season, definitely, because it went in the goal.
Cross of the season, completely.
All right, okay. This might be another difficult one. Player of the season, Hammer of the year, however you want to call it. Again, so many candidates for this one. For me, yeah, I think it's hard to look past Declan Rice. I've got to be honest; he was outstanding in most of the games. Arguably we could say man of the match in most of the games. I mean, but Jarrod Bowen came of age this season. Obviously got into the England squad at the end of the season, rightly so. I thought we mentioned him earlier. Kurt Zouma, I think when he played was very good. Antonio, if Antonio carried on his form from the first half of the season to the second half, then I think he would have been really in contention. But Declan Rice for me is a player of the season. JP, who's yours?
I agree with what you're saying about Rice. It does to a degree. It kind of felt like when we were awarding every man of the match to Scott Parker at certain points. Just because it's the fashionable thing to do. A lot of people were doing that, even when he wasn't having the best of his own level of games, but still miles ahead of everyone else around him. But in general, over the season, it is Bowen for me. Again, a hair's breadth. But for the reasons you touched on, Bill, the masterclass that he's shown of his potential, as Rice did a couple of seasons ago. Just again, some of the goals that he scored, Bowen has frustrated me a lot because he'll have about 3 or 4 chances and score 1 or 2 out of those goals. So he could have scored a lot more. He could have been easily 20 to 30 goals if he'd taken all the chances properly. For that reason alone, it's just that what he does off the ball, his movement, he's my player of the season.
Yeah, and the amount of assists that Bowen gets as well.
Exactly.
His goal contributions.
Was it only other than like up until the last game of the season? Was was it only Salah that had less assists with him up until that point, wasn't it? If I remember right.
I think in terms of goals and assists, he's right up there with like De Bruyne and Salah and amongst
I think
others,
he's
so.
got the most goal involvements in the Premier League of any English player, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is that. Yeah.
Yeah, so and then obviously Harry Kane's high up on that list as well. So that's amazing. Shows how well Bowen's done. And for you, Gatesy?
Well, I think that there were 3 players that I realistically thought were in the shake-up for Hammer of the Year, and they were Craig Dawson, Jared Bowen, and Declan Rice. I think if there hadn't have been the issue with Kurt Zouma that happened earlier in the season, obviously he's now had the punishment given out to him, and hopefully that draws a line under it. It probably won't, as far as away, when he goes away is concerned and all the rest of it, but it is what it is. I think he could have been in for a shout. I think he was very, very consistent in the main, and also the injury didn't help. But I'm going to have to go Declan Rice. And I know what you said earlier, John, about there were some games that he played below his normal standard, but still that standard was enough for him to be better than his teammates in certain matches. But, that's the thing. It's like you're not awarding a man of the match on the basis of what his normal standard is at. It's the standard of the players that he's playing with, and there were many matches where, like I say, I don't disagree. There were some games that you looked at him and went, "That's not a normal Declan Rice performance," but it was still a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Absolutely.
And if
100%.
everybody else was a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, it's like, well, he's still man of the match, so you got to give it to him.
Exactly. And again, if you speak to anybody, the top 2 is Rice or Bowen. It's one of the 2. It's either side of the same sort of coin, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, Bowen was magnificent. I mean, as you say, I mean, there were times in the season, especially sort of like the first couple of matches, he was getting plenty of chances, and goalkeeper was making a save, or it hit the post, or just whizzed past, or whatever. He obviously got his first goal and he was away, but it took a little bit of time, didn't it, before he got that? Because it was the first Premier League goal against Brentford, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it took a little while for him to get off the mark. And obviously, he had a great season. But I do look back and think, could have been better, but he's still not at his peak yet, guys. That's the thing, is that he's still got an awful lot of scope to improve, and hopefully he will be here for many years to come.
Yeah, here, totally agree, mate. Right, okay, let's finish our season awards with game of the season. So you can, it is open to interpretations. You can include it as in West Ham's performance of the season, or you can say the actual match itself is or you can have one game on one performance. I'll leave it up to you guys. So, Gatesy, you want to go first on this one?
Easy one, this. Seville, second leg.
Yeah. Good stuff. JP,
Easy.
for you?
It's a toss-up between the Lyon and the Sevilla second legs. I mean, taking the atmospheres out of the equation, the performances were just absolutely unreal. They really were. Liverpool at home is in that top list of 5 or 6 games of the season. But yeah, I have to say, in terms of the entire team performance and how the whole match went, got to agree with you, Gatesy, mate. It's Seville second leg.
No, good shouts, lads. I think I'm going to add another one to those 2 is the Liverpool home performance. I'm going to go with as well. I think to beat, to deservedly beat a side that ultimately obviously went to the last day, nearly won the league, but their record under Jurgen Klopp has been incredible. So to beat them and deservedly so as well was outstanding. So yeah, I agree with you boys. The Lyon away game was a fantastic perfect away performance. Kept a clean sheet, and to win by 3 goals comfortably was brilliant. And but I'm gonna agree with you boys. I think the Sevilla home game is my game of the season. In terms of as we've mentioned, to outplay a side who have dominated that competition, and yes, it went to extra time, but even so, lads, keep a clean sheet as well. The amount of good players they've got, and I think it was one of them where I think they were overawed by how we played and the atmosphere in the stadium, which again for a team like Sevilla is very rare, and it shows a testament to how well we played. So that's, for me, that's my game of the season.
It just beats Kidderminster away.
I knew that was coming.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I think that's probably comfortably worst performance of the season. Oh well, there we are, lads. Well, what a season it was for West Ham. Obviously, hopefully more of the same next season. But anything else you wanna? Anything else we missed? Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
I think the only thing I'd like to say is that there's a definite. If you look at the last 2 seasons that we've had, there's a definite improvement, and all I hope is that is at the very least maintained in terms of results, in terms of what they're kicking out on the pitch. I know that obviously we're all sitting here. I mean, as we record this, it's the 17th of June, and there's a lot of talk on social media about this signing, that signing. Nothing's actually happened yet, but
well,
yeah. I mean,
that too early, but
yeah.
Someone's coming.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed. I'm still. There's a little bit of a pessimist in me that thinks, oh, something's going to go wrong at the 11th hour, even with this. But you know, I just hope that we can be able to get the people in that David Moyes needs. I'm not bothered about people sort of go on about marquee signings and all the rest of it. Listen, we had a marquee signing with Felipe Anderson and Sebastian Haller, and look how that turned out. It's not about marquee signings. It's about getting in the people that are gonna do the job that the manager fundamentally wants and needs them to be able to do, and that's all there is to it. I mean, we've spoken about Craig Dawson, 2 million quid. Bargain, come in. It's been absolutely brilliant, and it was, like I say, in my opinion, in contention for Hammer of the Year. He didn't win it, obviously, but he was one of our very consistent performers. And for 2 million quid, a guy that came in initially on loan, I think most people derided him. It's not about marquee signings. Just get players in that are gonna do the job. You know, give David Moyes the funds and let him bring in the players that he needs, and let him stand or fall on his own merits.
Yeah. Also another player who's really kicked on this season, Soufal, really has kicked on, and again, 5 million quid. And you know, it's just these. I know he's been quite inconsistent for a lot of it, but when he had that surgery, he came back. He looked a lot stronger. His crosses were better. Do you remember very similar to how Ogbonna was, under Bilic? Once he had that surgery done, because I still maintain if Ogbonna needs surgery again, keep fucking playing him, because he was brilliant before, for that entire season, and until we were safe, and then he went and had the surgery, and he came back even stronger. So hopefully, he's going to come back stronger again from this new surgery. But as I say, I do generally think if we were going to talk about an underrated player of the season, that would be Soufal for me. He's 10 times better the player than he was this time last year.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, great. Well, that wraps it up. So thanks, Gatesy, for joining. I hope to see you on more videos next season. JP, thanks again, mate. Thanks again for joining. Appreciate your time. So thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to Garage Football if you're new. Subscribe to the two boys. Their channels in the description below. Let us know your thoughts on West Ham season in the comments below. Great to read those. So all the best. Take care. We'll see you soon.